Mr. Collins, you may speak.
Hi, my name is Eugene Collins. I'm the president of the Baton Rouge branch of the NAACP. Senator Fall and the rest of the senators, good evening. I have one request that you can deny if it's out of order. But this is the mother of Mr. Ronald Greene. I would like to allow her the opportunity to speak first if possible.
Let me, I don't know that I even have a card from her. Did you fill out a card? What is your name?
Mona Hardin.
Go ahead, Ms. Harden.
Yes.
I do have a card. You may speak.
Yes. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity of being here. It's been a while. It's going on 3 years. I can't even believe it's been that long. The fact that I'm sitting in a room with so many people of power, and in the midst of all this, it seems to be so hard to get answers. It's, I'm not disrespectful in any way, but I'm just wondering, why is it so hard? When there's so many people speaking on this, speaking of what's happening, speaking so much truth behind what's happening. And I understand it's a process. For the fact it's been since May 10th of 2019, I've been wandering around in a cloud of confusion. Just wondering, what does it take for the state of Louisiana to recognize the murder of a man? What does it take for the fact that we have people speaking on it, for the fact that we have films on it? What does it take to get answers of why my son was killed? Why did he have to be killed? There was no reason for it. And it falls on those who's governing the state troopers of Louisiana. It falls on them. The answers are right here. And it shouldn't be so hard, so difficult to have those that killed my son to be brought to justice, including a cover-up. I'm not disrespectful, but I've been living in such a cloud. This has torn my family up on such a horrific level. Unless any of you has seen your son being killed on such a level, on such a horrific level, you would not know the feeling. All I know is I had to see my son take his last breath. I thank God for the fact that I was able to see after a year the film of my Ronnie being tased and tortured. I thank God for the opportunity. I'm going on almost 3 years. I shouldn't have to be wandering around on such a thick level, such a thick cloud of whys. There should not be so many whys. I'm looking at so many people who have such power in their hands, and we're still muddling through the process. We have cameras, we have so many valid ways of getting answers, but we're still trying to pick the pieces just to get certain peoples from answering, from being held accountable. It's so obvious why it's taken this long, and it shouldn't have to be. No one is above the law. It's obvious why we've come this far. All the dots are connected. I've seen it the first week I was in Louisiana. I saw it the first week after my Ronnie was killed. The cover-up, I'm fine. I'm fine.
No, take your time.
I just want everyone to know. It was me, my 2 daughters, and my 8-year-old granddaughter. That first week in Louisiana, we saw everything. We were giving. We were giving. And I thank those who have stood up, and spoke to me back then. There were so many people that were generous with what I now see in that first week, what I needed to see in the cover-up. I thank those people who stood up back then and who are here in the court now. All I can say is, it's obvious to me within that first week of being in Louisiana, May 10th to May, we were there, my daughter left May 19th, 2019. Every person that had their hands in this cover-up, everyone that tried hard to intimidate our presence in the state of Louisiana, it was all there. And it's kept me through this very moment. It's solid. That year when I saw my Ronnie killed on that footage, I had to see my boy take his last breath. I brought him to this earth, and I saw the state of Louisiana take him out. I had to verify my son was no longer with me. I was in a trance back then. I'm in a trance right now. I'm so damn mad at the fact that I'm talking to people who have it in their power to make things happen, and it's still a formal procedure. I don't understand that. We're still having words behind the murder of my son, when it should be, it already should have been concluded. I don't understand how you can articulate the murder of a man to where somebody gets off the hook, the cover-up. I've said before, organized crime, and I say it again. Because if you overlook what's happened, and my Ronnie hasn't been the first, my Ronnie hasn't been the last. And people are steady, people of so much power are steady just grazing over evidence to let people off the hook. Why have we come so far just to go back to where we always have been, where y'all have always been? Ronnie's not the first, Ronnie's not the last, but why do we have to sugarcoat the murder of a man just to get people off the hook? When I speak of my son before, I know I would rattle on because I just could not recognize the fact that my son was taken from me in such a horrific way. I cannot sleep at night. I have to look at him. I have to hear his voice to know that he's still with me, even though you guys took him away. And I don't mean that. I mean the state of Louisiana and the cover-up that's ensued all this time. In the end, this is the murder of a human being. Y'all know your job. Y'all know the in and outs. Y'all know what you should and shouldn't do. When you take just total joy in taking the life of a man. My son hasn't been the first. When such things are going on a continuous level, at what point does this formality not get so thick it's sickening? What point do you have to continue doing this to where you guys recognize these formal, it's just a bunch of formality that somebody needs to get rid of this? Because in the end, you're looking how to sugarcoat because someone's wearing a badge, because someone puts their life on the line. But at some point, innocent people are being killed. Where you should have an arrest, you're just going to go ahead and just kill them. You're putting power where power shouldn't be because it's being misused. All I can say is I'm proud of the fact that I'm speaking, and I haven't lost my words because I get into such a phase to where I can't focus. My anxiety takes such a, it just takes over. But I'm glad for the opportunity. And all I can say is everyone who's had their hands on this, what happened to my son, needs to be held accountable. You can't continue to sugarcoat. I don't care what badge you wear, what three-piece suit you've been walking in. No one is above the law. Until it's happened to you, until you've seen and felt the destruction that's taken over in my family and my children, it's literally tore my family up. We cannot talk, we cannot communicate. There's such ugliness that hovers over my family that's tore my kids up. It's wrong. And someone needs to stand up, do what's right, because unless everyone that controls what's happening in Louisiana, someone needs to set the example. I appreciate the fact that I'm sitting in front of y'all. I appreciate the fact that I haven't fallen apart worse than I have. But I do what I do now with my son right here with me. I listened to him last night. I listen to him every night. It's his voice that gives me courage to stand up, to speak, and go forward. All I know is, and I can say this with no hesitation, what happened to my Ronnie should not have happened at all, for the fact that it was carelessly and freely done without a second thought. The state of Louisiana needs to fix this. Ronnie hasn't been the first, he hasn't been the last. And at some point, someone needs to take over what's happened on with the legal entities that governs the state of Louisiana. Someone needs to be held accountable. When you wear a badge, it doesn't give you carte blanche to what's happening with those that you think do wrong. Everyone is not, regardless of wearing a badge, you're not above the law. And they should be held accountable. I just thank you for the opportunity. I thank God I'm able to speak without losing my train of thought. I know my son is here as I speak. And I just thank you all for the opportunity for hearing me out.
Thank you for coming today. We appreciate you making the effort to come down, and we do feel very bad for your loss, and thank you for coming today to provide the testimony.
Thank you.
Let me turn to the other witnesses at the table. If y'all would like to make any comments, if you'd state your name for us, and please proceed.
Eugene Collins, President of NAACP, Baton Rouge. You know, as I sat here and listened today, you know, here in Louisiana and far too many times in this country, do we have a system that overprotects bad police officers? Not the good ones, because the good ones rarely need that access to this, but a system that continuously protects bad officers. We're sitting here today talking about a cover-up because back in 2019, folks didn't quite understand how the video system worked. And today we sat here for some time and saw folks from the highest law enforcement agency in our state not quite understand how the video system works. So that makes me believe that there could be another Ronald Greene, even with all the changes. And I say this, I think Colonel Davis and his team has made some positive changes, but if we're still sitting here having a conversation about how the video system works, not enough has changed. And that's something that I think is on this body. That's something that I think is on the folks making the appointments. What happened to Ronald Greene is a travesty. But what we've heard here today gives me no confidence that this system could not produce another one. And that's problematic, because that's not what we tell the folks that we serve. This mom has had to live with this, has had to see her son drug on the side of the road again and again, hear his cries. But some folks came up to this table today with bureaucracy, and she had to sit here and listen to it with a dead son. That's something we have to get past. We have to get back to the human nature of this. This was a man, a human, that was drug on the side of the road in Louisiana. And I don't have to tell you the historical context of that. That's been happening to black men on the side of Louisiana since the 1800s. And it's time we did something to stop it, not just for Ronald Greene, but for my son, for your son, Mr. Fall, everybody. Thank you.